Hi there, could you do me a favour really quick? Would you pretty please subscribe to the show, leave me a 5-star rating if you like it, and share an episode or two with your bookish friends? Better yet, if you could drop a link to the show or to your favourite episode in your book club or bookish group chat, that works too. I promise it only takes a few seconds, it really helps the show, plus I'll be incredibly grateful for it. So thanks in advance, and now on to the episode. Hello, I'm Victoria from Biblio Lifestyle, and you're listening to the Reader's Couch podcast, the show that will help you bridge the gap between living a full and busy life to one where you're reading, learning new things, and having fun. Today on the couch, I'm so excited to welcome author Carley Fortune to talk about her latest novel, Meet Me at the Lake. Meet Me at the Lake is a captivating love story that follows Fern and Will. These two share a deep connection after spending 24 hours together in Toronto, only to be separated for nearly a decade. Now that they're back in each other's lives, we see their second chance at love unfold. Now, in this episode, Carley and I talk about so many things, from her inspiration to write this novel and her debut Every Summer After, to playing a fun game that dives into fun summer lakeside activities. Carley also shares some great book recommendations, indie bookstores, her upcoming projects, and lots more. So, let's get into the episode because I can't wait for you to listen to my chat with author Carley Fortune. So I have a quick question to ask you. Have you ever thought about starting a reading habit? Or maybe you're a once in every blue moon type of reader, but you want to be more consistent and maintain a reading habit. Or maybe you're an avid reader, but you're interested in having a more intentional and fulfilling reading life. Does that sound like you? If any of those scenarios sound like you in even the slightest, I want to invite you to take the What's Your Reader Type quiz. It will only take 60 seconds of your time and you'll discover your reader type. But most importantly, you'll get the resources you need to start reading, maintain the habit, and get intentional. So visit readertypequiz.com. That's readertypequiz.com. It will only take you 60 seconds and you'll discover your reader type and get the resources you need. So whether you're an aspiring or avid reader, go to readertypequiz.com, spend 60 seconds and take the quiz that will help you get clear on where you are right now and what you need to do to live your best reading and literary life yet. Hi readers, welcome again to the Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me is a best-selling author and award-winning journalist who lives in Toronto. But she's here on the couch with me to talk about her latest novel, Meet Me at the Lake. Please welcome to the couch, Carley Fortune. Hi, Carley.
Hi, so good to be here.
I'm really excited to have you on. I absolutely loved Meet Me at the Lake. But before we get into it, how are you feeling? It's your second novel. It's out in the world. It's been out for a month now. How excited are you?
Oh, I'm really excited. It's just been a surreal experience. It was surreal with my first book and it's surreal again this time around. I think it was 3 weeks ago when it got onto the New York Times bestseller list at #1, and I'm still not over that. So it's pretty wild.
Absolutely. I think I would be stuck on that moment for a really long time too. But I want readers to hear it from you, Carley. Tell us about your book, Meet Me at the Lake, and what can readers expect when they go in?
Sure. So it is a love story. It's about Fern and Will, who meet when they're in their early 20s. They've just graduated from school, so they're in that phase of life where they're launching into their next stage, and they have this chance encounter that brings them together. And they end up spending 24 hours together exploring Toronto. And they have this like great connection. They tell each other their secrets. They talk about how they think their futures are going to look. And they make a pact to meet 1 year later at the resort where Fern grew up. And Fern shows up, but Will does not. And then cut forward into the future, 9 years later, Fern is back home at her lakeside resort, and she's running the place following the death of her mother. It is becoming clear to her that the business is not doing so well, and her ex-boyfriend is the manager, so she's having a pretty rough time. And then in walks Will with a very surprising offer to help. And the book is told in alternating now and then timelines. So you get to go back in the past and spend 24 hours with Fern and Will when they're in their early 20s. And then in the present day summer where you're at Brookbank's resort. And it's, it's about, there's a really strong mother-daughter storyline. It's about healing from grief, and it's a romance. So there's also a happy ending.
Absolutely. It's a second chance romance, both at love and life and career. And I found Fern a really compelling character. So she was living in the city before moving back to her hometown to run her family's business. Tell us about Fern. She had ambitions to do other things, but where is she in her life before having to move back home to take care of this business?
Yeah, so in her life in the city, she's been living in Toronto since school. So for about almost 15 years, I guess. And she has become kind of the manager of a small chain of 3 coffee shops in downtown Toronto. And they're about to open their like biggest location with an on-site roastery. And she's kind of built up this business. But she's harboring a dream to open her own coffee shop one day. And she's even got like a storage unit with furniture that she's bought. She has she knows what music she's going to play on opening day. There's a location that she is her dream location. So she has this, has a very busy job, but she also has this secret desire it's not secret, but she has this desire to go out on her own. So when she is kind of thrust back into the world of the resort and trying to decide what she's going to do, she's both putting her current big job on hold and also this dream of hers on hold.
Absolutely. And then there's Will. You gave us a rundown. They met prior 10 years before. They were supposed to get together for, a year later. He stood her up. And now it's 10 years later and he's here to help. But Will also has things going on in his life as well. So tell us about Will before he shows up at the resort to help.
Yeah, so Will is an interesting character. He, in his early 20s, he is this idealistic artist who is, kind of committed to his art and doesn't care if he's going to make money or not, is just kind of going to scrape by in order to do the thing that he loves. And now he is kind of like a corporate consulting guy, like a marketing whiz at this agency in Toronto, and has won awards for his work. He's very slick. He seems, when he's younger, he's very open, and he's much more guarded in the present day. And he's been, his life has taken a very different path from the one that he intended the day that he spent with Fern, and the reasons why kind of unfurl slowly over the course of the book. But he's become kind of his version of who he thinks a responsible adult is.
Absolutely. And, there are questions throughout the novel that kind of keep us turning the pages. What did Fern do when she was a teenager? She also finds out stuff about her mom via her diary. And we also get to find out a bit more of, what was going on with Will, why he stood her up. So there questions throughout that will keep readers turning. At least it did for me. But also the novel has a great supporting cast. Who would you say was your favorite to write or discover?
Oh, good question. I loved writing Jamie because his character really evolved for every draft. So in the first draft, he was not an ex-boyfriend. He wasn't even in the past timeline. And one of my editors suggested we make him an ex. And that really maybe he maybe in the first draft he was a little bit in the past timeline, but anyway, he became this ex-boyfriend, and the story of Jamie and Fern's relationship and how it kind of broke apart was I really liked exploring that, and he was so fun to write. um and one of my editors particularly liked him, so she would just ask, "Can we just have a little bit more Jamie here?" So I said, "Okay, Deborah, this paragraph is for you specifically." He's just, a fun kind of. Um, I think Fern like describes him as like he's kind of like a Labrador, he's just like a happy puppy, and he's super confident and very different from Fern. And he really was able to draw her out of her shell when they were younger, which I really thought was special too. So I loved writing Jamie. I liked writing Whitney too, because she's so she wears her emotions so plainly, which is also different from Fern. It's always fun to have characters who can kind of poke at your main characters. So like Jamie teases Will, and Whitney is, kind of teases Fern a little bit and pushes her outside of her comfort zone. And it's always fun to have your secondary characters agitate your main characters in a way. I like doing that anyway.
Yep, amazing. I love hearing that. So I want to know about your inspiration for this book. I mean, what made you decide to write Meet Me at the Lake? Tell us about the place that inspired this book. I want all the details.
Sure. So I started writing this book shortly after giving birth to my second son. And it was also not that long after I finished Every Summer After. My publication journey was very fast. And so I had insomnia during my pregnancy. I had insomnia after my pregnancy. And I felt and I had worked full time also while I wrote my first book, Every Summer After, and right up until 2 weeks before the baby was born. So I was really tired. I was trying to come up with an idea for my second book, and I was just lying in bed at the middle of in the middle of the night, and I asked myself where I wanted to be, because for me, writing is so much like reading in that you get to experience the worlds where your characters are. And as soon as I asked myself that question, I saw the resort. So this classic lakeside resort with a big lodge with, made of stone and wood, with the peaked ceilings on top of a hill, and cabins that kind of sprawl out on the lake shore on either side of the lodge, and kind of like a Dirty Dancing style resort. And also so the resort is in Muskoka, which is the most popular cottaging region north of Toronto. It's fairly close to the city. And back in the early 1800s, late 1900s, there were these kinds of major resorts built at the time. The one in particular, there's a line in this book that Clark Gable had stayed at Brookbanks, and Clark Gable did vacation in Muskoka. So it was a real era. So I just had that vision of a resort. And then Fern came to me the same night. I saw her right away. I saw her as somebody who is back home, who had very mixed feelings about growing up at the resort, who had this kind of strained relationship with her mother. They love each other, but there's been tensions. And then from there, it was, I knew I wanted to do the diaries that night too. All those three things clicked in one night. And then after that, it was really figuring out who Fern's partner, who the hero would be, what she needed. And also, I wanted to challenge myself to do the exact opposite of what I did with Every Summer After. In that book, the characters meet when they're 13 and they spend so much time together over the years. They become best friends, and you see their bond grow over time, and their love just solidify over time. And I wanted to see if I could write about two people who have a fleeting encounter, but one that feels important to them, one that had this like really special connection that was just a blip in time. And I don't see them as having fallen in love in that day, but I do see it as like a person who you really connect with instantly, who you kind of think about now and then.
Right, absolutely. I hope readers will take a chance on this one and just kind of discover their story throughout the pages, because it certainly kept me turning them. So I want to shake things up on the podcast a bit and play a game. And because it's called Meet Me at the Lake and it's peak summer reading season, this game is called What to Do This Summer Lakeside Edition. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to list some fun lake vacation activities, and you're going to tell me what activities you would prefer to do if you were spending a summer at the lake. And for extra spice, you're going to tell me what activities Fern would prefer to do. So are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yay. All right. So let's start with some active lake activities. So would you and Fern prefer doing tubing or paddleboarding?
Oh, I think we're both paddleboarding.
Both paddleboarding. Okay, what about kayaking or water skiing?
Fern is definitely kayaking. I used to water ski when I was young. I would like to think I could do that still. That would be my preference if I could.
Water ski. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, are we wakeboarding or kite surfing?
Oh, I think Fern would kite surf. I don't know if I would do either. I would try it. I would try it.
Try kite surfing.
Yeah, I couldn't wakeboard, I don't think. It looks hard.
What about jet skiing or just a leisure swim?
I think Fern is a leisure swim. I think I'm jet skiing.
Yeah, I'm hopping on that jet ski too. All right, so more relaxing activities. Are we reading a book or are we stargazing?
Reading a book.
Taking a nap or snapping some photos?
Photos.
Watch the sun rise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Fishing or bird watching?
Bird watching.
All right, and the last one. Are we relaxing on a pontoon boat or are we driving a speedboat?
Speedboat.
Yay, amazing. Thank you so much for playing the game.
Good. I hope I passed.
No, I think you did well. And anyone with that itinerary would have an amazing time at the lake.
Yes.
So also, you mentioned this earlier, and I picked it up in the book too. Fern wanted to open her espresso shop, and she was very into music. And and her love for music came from Peter, who was her mom's longtime companion. So she has a soundtrack, but tell me 3 songs that would be on your summer playlist and 3 that would be on Fern's.
Oh gosh, that's so hard. This is a hard question. So I have to cop to the fact that my husband is fully our household DJ. And so he just sends me stuff that he thinks I'll like, other than Taylor Swift, who I follow on my own fruition, and Haim, which they are my favorite band. And then, so maybe I would have something that's Taylor Swift and something that's Haim. And then, what else would I put on there? You know what I've been listening to? This would be a terrible mix, but there is an album. I'm just like putting it up on my phone now so I get it right, that I've been writing to recently. I never used to write to music, but last year when the baby was at home and my husband stayed home to look after him there I had to put on noise canceling headphones and music so I could drown them out. And so now I do sometimes work with music. And there is an album of Vivaldi's Four Seasons that's
Hmm.
recomposed by Max Richter. And it is so incredible. Like it makes you feel all the emotions. And so I would probably pick something from that. Sorry, that's not a great answer, but I listen to the same thing over and over again. Like I listen to, like I've got a running playlist, I've got some work playlists, and I'm just
Uh-huh.
listening to the same stuff over and over again. Fern, I don't know. What would she listen to? I have a Meet Me at the Lake playlist on my phone.
Ah,
I do, yeah, and I don't think I updated it uh quite like I feel like it is reflects like one of the earlier drafts, but
yeah, yeah.
one of the songs on it is Fiona Apple's I Want You to Love Me, which I think feels very Fern. Like a lot of the Fern songs are young Fern. They're kind of angry songs. And then there's I have Miss World by Hole. And
Hmm.
then I also love this, like spiritualized as mentioned in the book. There's a song called I Think I'm in Love by
Yeah.
Spiritualized, which is to me the song that is Warren, Will, and Fern as young people when they're getting high in an alley. It's a song about getting high, but it's also a song about having a crush and how um like questioning whether your feelings are real. And I think that's a great one for them. That's a very long answer to a short question.
No worries. I mean, a playlist is really hard to kind of put together, especially if you're not the family DJ, which you did say your
Yes,
husband
no,
is. So,
I love music so much. It just requires so much thought. And I wanted to
yeah.
put out a playlist for this book. And then I was like, this is gonna take me. And then you want all the songs to be in the right order and have like you want
Hmm.
the mix to have a kind of like an overall arc, I think. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I have like this perfect ideal for what the playlist will be, and I don't have time to do this.
No, it's really difficult. And it's then you also realize what musicians do, because when you do get an album and you do play it in order, you kind of get a story for paying attention sometimes. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so a lot of thought goes into it. I 100% agree with you. It would be hard for me to put a playlist together too. Okay, so I want to get into your writing life really quick. How long did it take for you to pull together Meet Me at the Lake?
So it was over a year, just over a year from start to
Hmm.
finish. When I began writing, I was not writing full time. So the first couple months, I was writing during my baby's naps. But then after that, I was writing full time, and it took, yeah, a bit over a year from start to finish.
For readers who are not familiar with your previous book, your debut, Every Summer After, give us a quick pitch on that one.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yes. I haven't done this in a long time. So let's hope I can still do it. It is about Percy and Sam who meet when Percy's family buys the cottage next door to Sam's house on a lake in Barry's Bay when they're both 13. It's set, Barry's Bay is where I grew up. So the setting is very close to home for me. And they are become best friends and they fall in love, and then something happens and they don't talk for over a decade until one day Percy gets a call that has her racing back to Barry's Bay. And you know she comes she heads back to Barry's Bay. It's a very tumultuous weekend. She is confronting Sam and confronting what has happened in the past, and it goes back and forth in time. So in the past, you kind of spend the summers at the lake with Percy and Sam from the time they're 13 until the time they're 17, and in the present, it's just told over this one weekend. And yeah, so it's a lakeside romance, and I think it's very fast paced and pretty emotional.
Absolutely. What would you say is the difference, though, between both books?
I think there's a different mood. I think, Every Summer After is there's nostalgia in both of them, but I think it's super nostalgic and very um, light. I think it's a lighter book. It's like a bit younger because the characters are younger. And I think Meet Me at the Lake is a bit more mature and
Hmm.
tender and really um, uh, I think that's like I think there's the covers really kind of embody the different
Yeah.
moods. Like the cover of Every Summer After is two young people leaping off a dock into the water, and the cover of Meet Me at the Lake is a painting of two people at sunset sitting on the end of a dock, and her head is leaning against his shoulder, and it feels kind of like a deep breath. And so I think, yeah, the moods are slightly different.
Which, by the way, I just want to do a quick shout out to the book cover designer. Stunning. Both are absolutely
Yes,
stunning. And they look great next to each other too. So,
they do. Yeah, I'm so lucky that the art department found Elizabeth Lenny, who's the painter whose work is on the covers. She's Elizabeth's actually based in Toronto, and the Meet Me at the Lake
mhm.
cover is based on a photograph I took at the cottage where we stay. So they feel they're so gorgeous and they feel really special to me.
Oh, that's amazing. I love hearing that. So, now you have two books out there in the world, and they're both great books. I am a bit biased. I love Meet Me at the Lake more, I feel.
I
But they're
love hearing
both,
that. I
I
think that's
do,
not,
I
I
do.
don't think that's the common opinion.
Interesting. No, Meet Me at the Lake. I think if I had to pick a favorite of the two, it would be Meet Me at the Lake.
I love
One.
it. I love it.
It really is. But now you have two books out there in the world. I mean, looking back at your publishing journey thus far, your writing journey thus far, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would you tell her?
Oh gosh, I'll probably start to cry, honestly. I loved writing when I was a kid, and I did it with my family. We used to live in Australia. I was born in Toronto. We moved to Australia when I was young, and then we moved back to Canada. We moved up to Barry's Bay, where our cottage was. And I had a really hard time at school. I didn't have any friends, and so I'd kind of sit by myself at recess and write stories. And I very quickly, though, decided, I think by sixth grade, that being a writer wasn't a job that I could have. It wasn't like a real job. You couldn't make any money. And I was worried about that kind of thing. And so I took a different path in my career. I, but I always had this secret desire to write. So I think I would like tell myself to keep writing, to never stop.
Absolutely. I think so many of us find solace and escape and meaning through books and reading. So to kind of hear your backstory on how your writing journey started and where you are now, it just, to me, it just makes it even more heartwarming. The fact that you have two wonderful books out there. So
Oh,
congratulations
thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you. You know what's interesting when you use the word escape is that when I came back to writing, when I wrote Every Summer After, that was 2020, and writing became
Hmm.
my escape. And I think
Hmm.
it's so interesting that we can do that both as readers and writers. It's so wonderful.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So I want you to enjoy the fact you have two wonderful books out there, Every Summer After, Meet Me at the Lake. But I'm curious, are you writing any other books?
I am. Yes, I am working on my third book right now.
Hmm.
It's a love story, and I'm really excited about this one. After I finished Meet Me at the Lake, I felt like I wanted to tackle something fun because while I think the book is an escape and I think it is fun, but there's so much, it was a heavy lift for me. And I was going through some stuff
Hmm.
personally that I work out through the book. And after that, I was like, I want to do something fun. And so this book that I'm working on is I want it to feel like a real ride. I can't share too much, hopefully later this
Okay.
summer, but I'm so excited about it.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can get anything out of you. I'm curious about one thing, setting. Can you tell me
Okay.
where it's set?
I can't tell you where it's set. I will tell you that it is it's Canadian. It's a Canadian setting, and
Okay.
it's not set on a lake. So it's
Is
a
it
new
set in a
setting.
city? A city? Oh, you can't
Um,
say.
Partially.
Okay.
There is city in it, but it's summery. So like
Okay.
it's got a summery
Ah. Okay. Okay.
summery feel. Yeah.
Okay. Well, summary is good for me. I'm excited. I can't wait. So hopefully we'll get book 3 sometimes in the next year or two.
Yeah, hopefully next year.
Woohoo! Amazing. I love it. Okay, so let's get into your reading life really quick because I know we're here to chat about Meet Me at the Lake, but I want to know what you're reading. So share with us the last book or books that you finished reading that you'd now recommend.
Oh, so I just finished yesterday reading the book Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so Annabelle she has some YA books. This was her first adult romance. It came out last year, and then this year in North America it came out in paperback. And it is about a woman who it's like a regular person, famous person romance, but it is so much more than that. And the main character is a 39-year-old woman with 2 children, which that's me. So I felt very like close to the character. And she is what I loved so much about the book is that the voice of the protagonist is very dry and very different in a way that I liked. And it also spends a lot of time looking at a lot of romances have this end, like third act breakup. But this book, the
Mm-hmm.
breakup is different and the dissolution of the relationship gets a lot more time and analysis. And I think it's really beautifully done. And it was a great read. And so that was her book that came out last year. And next week, on June 6th, her second romance comes out, and it's called Same Time Next Summer. And it's
Mm-hmm.
if you liked Every Summer After, if you have read that book and liked it, you will love this book. It's about a woman who goes to her Long Island beach house, her family's beach house, and she's planning her wedding, but she runs into her first love who broke her heart when she was 16. And my chest hurt reading this book. Like it is so emotional and it goes back and forth in time, which I obviously love. And so I would definitely recommend those Annabelle Monaghan books.
Woohoo! Sounds good. What books would you say were your childhood favorites?
I loved, so as I said, I lived in Australia and I loved this YA series by John Marsden that was the first book's called Tomorrow When the War Began. And it's about, I think there are 7 books in the series. It's about a group of Australian teens who go camping in the wilderness. And when they return to their town, they're from like a kind of agricultural town and there's the big fair happening. The whole town has been occupied by it's not really clear, but by a military presence. And so they go to live in in the bush. And it is such a great action packed book. But I think what I loved so much when I was a kid and what really like sparked my imagination as a kid who liked writing was that the setting descriptions are glorious and writing setting is one of my favorite things. So I really loved that series. I think I read the first book in the series probably 8 times.
Wow, that is amazing. And that's what I love, when we're so much younger and sometimes teeny weeny, we'll read the same books over and over and over again and find
Oh
such
yeah,
joy and pleasure. And I think that's just magical and
I
amazing. So,
agree.
yay. What books are you looking forward to reading now in the year ahead?
Ooh, um, let's see. Oh, I should just look at my stack of books that are sitting right here behind me. So
Yay!
what I really would like to read next is I'm very lucky because I get a lot of books sent to me and they haven't been published yet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then I like have and we were asked to blurb as other authors' books, but then the stack of the books that I have come out that I haven't been able to read is growing. And on that stack right now is Stars in an Italian Sky by Jill Santopolo. I am a huge fan of hers. I loved her 3 previous books. She writes just the most beautiful love stories and so smart. And I think I'm always crying when I read her story. So I definitely want to read that. I haven't read Pineapple Street yet by Jenny Jackson, and I am excited to read that one. What else is over here? Those 2 might be next when I have a chance for personal reading.
Sounds good. And we also love bookstores here on the show. Share with our listeners a favorite childhood or local indie.
So I'm going to share. So I lived in Victoria, British Columbia for a year after I graduated from university. And I recently returned there for part of my book year, just for 24 hours. And one of the bookstores, it's called Munro's. It's downtown in Victoria. It's an independent bookstore. I used to wander through Munro's and dream of writing a book. And it was so cool to walk into that. I just went for a walk. I did this whole nostalgia tour of Victoria, and then I went into Munro's and I stepped into the store and my book was right there. And I kind of yelped like, oh my gosh, that's my book. And it was a surreal moment, but it is such a wonderful bookstore. It's beautiful space with these like soaring ceilings and the dark wooden shelves. And if you're ever in Victoria, I would definitely suggest going there.
Yay. All right. So getting back to Meet Me at the Lake. Again, I know you've done your job. You've written the book. You've given it to us. It's been out there in the world for quite a few weeks now. So I know you're getting feedback as well. But what are some of the reactions you're hoping for, or some thoughts you're hoping readers might have?
I think that one of the things I want people to think about, I definitely want people to feel like they've had an escape. Like, first and foremost, I want people to feel like they've been transported to the Toronto of 10 years ago, which was such a fun time to be in the city, and to the lake, and feel like they just got a piece of, travel without going anywhere. Whether you're like going away to the beach or you wish you were at the beach, I want it to feel like that kind of escapist read. So that's like first and foremost, and to feel like to leave with your heart full. Also, I think, I like happy endings because I just need to give myself that in books. So I want that. And then the other thing is that, without giving too much away, that it's impossible to know what somebody else is going through, even with the best communication. We just don't know what it's like to live in somebody else's shoes. And I think, we have to give each other grace and patience and chances in relationships, and have empathy. And it really, I just think that's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Carley, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Reader's Couch podcast. Please subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Until next time, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks again for listening, and happy reading.